All right. Welcome to another Microsoft in the Box pod. This is episode 94. I am here today with my co host.
David Allen, hope everybody is doing well. We're a little slow today, a little sluggish. I think we've got some pollen, some spring blues or something, but just kind of hang out with us. We'll get you there.
Yeah, I'm Kareem Anderson today, and we're going to be talking about Microsoft News. We left you guys last week. I had some things that we needed to take care of, but we are back, and there's plenty of news, plenty of Microsoft news. I know we've been kind of light for the past few weeks, but Microsoft is back in the headlines. We're going to be talking about quite a bit, actually. We got
hmm
some gaming news, a lot of gaming news, both in actual games and the trajectory of where Microsoft gaming is going to go. Uh, you know, depending on how committed they are to this could be a good sign for all of us. Then we got some news about some more corporate backstabbing slash espionage ish kind of stuff. And then we got the biggest news. This is because they are one of the biggest tech companies in the world, particularly in North America as well. We'll be talking about Apple. I know. Don't turn away just yet. Give
Not
us a
yet.
second. They have a new CEO, and I think we have some thoughts on where that could lead for Apple, both negatively and positively. And we'll talk about why the switch in CEO happened to what many of us felt like if we're not Apple insiders, kind of suddenly. But with that being said, let's get into our tech rant. I don't know if you have one ready for the week. I do. I have one ready to go.
All right, what you got? You go first this week. I went first last couple of weeks. What you got?
This one isn't particularly about the tech itself, but the boxes and vacuum plastic it comes in. I think packaging has gotten out of hand. And again, this is old man yells at cloud. So if you would like to fast forward, maybe jump ahead. I'll try and keep this to 3 minutes. Um, I think because we got into this period where Apple, and I'm blaming Apple for this, they got super minimalistic. And again, at the time, it was novel. It was awesome to see this packaging that wasn't loose, didn't have a bunch of extra stuff. It was very clean. All the lines met where they needed to meet. And the package was, part of the ambiance of the product you were getting. It helped you realize what you were buying and what kind of quality you were about to get. There were times when we had packages before that where, the tape didn't match, the edges were all over the place. The materials were a bunch of different pieces put all together. Basically, it was just to get you the product itself, put in some sort of box so that you can rip it open, throw away the bunch of extra stuff, and get to using your product. Apple came along and said, "Hey, the package is also part of the product. It's something you may even want to keep. Maybe you want to honor this purchase afterwards because it's so neatly put together that you can re-put it back together and it doesn't look like a mess." Again, we think about yourself when you were a child during Christmas. There was just wrapping paper and torn boxes everywhere because you didn't care what was in there. As you got older, though, you kept some of those boxes. One, because you were maybe thinking to resell this thing. And again, the package is part of the quality. It let people knew like, hey, this guy took care, or this person took care of their product so well that they even kept the packaging. I think every company saw that, followed it. Now we're 15, 17, 20 years down the road. And I think people have gone too far, especially when it comes to vacuum sealing or getting to a point where you can't even open it because everything's so intricately manufactured, molded together, uh, you know, glued. I feel like soldered sometimes. It's just, I feel like I'm losing skin, fingernails, if I don't have the use of a knife, if I don't have particular scissors with me. It's like, if you don't have those two things, you're not getting into your package no matter what you bought. And then again, fair enough. On the opposite side, there's Amazon that just tosses everything in these like weird, paper bags. And you just have to pray that it doesn't break when it lands on your doorstep. But to all the tech companies, I think there's still a middle ground between being uh, accessible and qualitatively packaged. That's my rant. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you agree with me. If you're just like, hey, dude, get a pair of scissors, get a pocket knife, you'll be fine.
No, I'm going to agree with you, but what you said about tech packaging there is absolutely accurate, and I do agree. I do find myself when I do buy Apple products, I mean, we're not an Apple podcast, but I think we probably both at least own something with the Apple name on it. I have
Yeah,
nothing
and again,
against.
they're not the only ones. I just recently am testing a Dell computer, and their packaging is pretty awesome. It's nice, but they are also similar in the very super minimalistic. They're not as quite as you can open up their package without needing a knife. That's my
But,
point. I shouldn't have to need a knife or a pair of scissors to get to these things.
I'm gonna take this in a weird direction since you brought up packaging. We all go to the grocery store and we buy, what we need, what we wanna eat. Well, I am guilty of liking fresh hams, fresh turkeys, etcetera. I like things to be as fresh as possible. And if you go to your local grocery store, at least here, you can buy the Smithfield hams or a turkey, and you can buy half or you can buy a quarter, enough for one person, enough for two people without having to buy the entire ham. Now, what does this have to do with packaging? It takes me 30 minutes to get into my ham or my package because, to your point, it is shrink wrapped so tight. And I understand that freshness is important. I want it to be fresh. I get it. But you've got to at least have enough plastic or enough packaging there for me to be able to slide a knife in there and break the packaging to get the rest of it off. There's not enough space at the top without cutting into your product or on the side to stick a knife that is strong enough to get through this super, super duper tough plastic that they have started using without cutting your ham or cutting your turkey or whatever it is you're opening. There's ham, turkey, and a lot of other, a few others. But I have noticed they're all wrapped the same way. It doesn't matter about, brand of turkey or brand of ham. I've noticed they're all wrapped the same way. So yes, this packaging thing, I get it, but let's do a little
Oh,
better.
yeah, especially when they do the box within a box for some of these tech things.
Oh Lord.
And again, I'm a privileged person, so I do acknowledge that. But when I get to test computers, there are boxes within boxes within boxes and boxes that cover up other things. I don't think everything needs to be in a box. Some computer companies will give you the like cloth sleeve, which I think is a great idea. It's easy way to get into the device, still protects it from scratches. It's already inside of a box, so as far as moving around while being shipped across country or across the world, it's already protected from that. You don't need to have another box that I need to get into in order to get to that, and all these other additional screen protectors and plastics and stuff like that. Again, my hopefully we'll get to a point where we have one have people that have more creative packaging, and two, more accessible packaging at the end of the day. If you've stuck around this long, we're done,
Thank you.
at least with my rant. I think David's co-signing with mine. So I think we can move on to actual news for you guys. Thank you uh, for letting an old man rant at the cloud.
I would like to add one more thing, if
Sure,
you
of
don't
course.
mind. For those that listened to our last podcast, it was 2 weeks ago, I ran on about a 10-minute rant about me and Microsoft apps and Google and my apps disconnecting. I just wanted to throw in an update. The status has changed.
Uh,
Microsoft apps are completely unpredictable on my stock. When I say stock, folks, bone stock Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. There's no beta apps, there's no launcher. Everything is bone stock. So here's what happens now, just for those that want the update. You're going along, your apps are working, Teams is working. We use it for the websites. You've got Outlook, we use that for the website. We're on Microsoft 365. So you need all those apps to function. They're functioning. You close all your apps, you restart your phone, and they no longer open anymore. But wait, there's more. You sit there, you wait a day. I waited 2 days. Magically, my app started working again. Just I did nothing. They just reconnected, reinitialized,
hold on,
whatever
hold
it
on.
is they did.
Did you try blowing into the phone? Just saying. Just saying. I don't think you tried everything.
It's not a Nintendo game.
Won't know
but
until you try.
but they worked for that day. That evening, they disconnected or done whatever they do. Again, they've been disconnected for an extra day. This morning when I woke up, my Microsoft apps were working. How long I get to use those apps today is yet to be determined. So if anybody out there has any clues, I have read, I have dug very deep into this to try to fix this problem. I have found some Reddit threads out there that let me know that I'm not alone. And supposedly, uninstalling Google Play updates fixes this problem. I can agree with that until I need to use the Play Store or I would like my Android smartwatch to work. Those are your trade offs. If you uninstall the Play updates, you're done with the Google Play Store and your smartwatch doesn't work. So, somebody, please help fix it, do something. That'd be good.
Yeah. Hopefully, if someone will reach out to you. Until then, try blowing into it or shaking it really hard. Again,
Or
these are
maybe
tried and true.
stick a key in it like we used to do with the Nintendo games. You remember taking a
Yeah.
cart key and running it across the end of a Nintendo
I
game?
don't. I don't see why. I don't see why these haven't been tried yet. I feel like you are slacking when you're in. That being said, let's talk about Forza. I think you wanted to talk about that today. Throw
Yes,
that up
I
there for
do,
us.
because I am a fan of race cars, folks. To get to know me is to understand that David likes race cars, and that's just how David is. It's race cars. So for race cars and Microsoft, how all this fits together, Forza Horizon 6, which comes out later this year, is taking the Horizon Festival to the mountains of Japan, which sounds pretty cool to me. Let's go to the mountains of Japan with a bold limited edition Xbox wireless controller and headset inspired by the game's vibrant style and drifting culture on the iconic roads. Now, if you take a look at this headset or controller, I won't have to say this is part of the reason I picked this story up. It's one of the most active, one of the most vibrant controller sets that I have seen Microsoft put out. There's really nothing necessarily special about functionality or anything like that. There's still the normal Microsoft headset and Microsoft controller that you buy standard, but they look cool, darn it. They look good. The D-pad is flanked by the two rubberized grips that we're used to complete the look. The design plays tribute to Japan's legendary Toad Mountain is how we're going to pronounce that. Toad Mountain classes, which is the birthplace. I did not know this. The birthplace of drifting and patterns inspired by the top-down winding mountains. Now, you can pre-order both of these today. You've got the Xbox wireless controller, Bluetooth support for your headset. You've also got Dolby Atmos and the Windows Sonic sound support. Now, hold on to your wallets a minute. Your Xbox controller is going to be $89.99. So remember, that's a customized controller that is a little more expensive than our $49, $59 standard controller. And the headset is $134.99. I think it's marked up maybe 12 or 14 bucks more than the standard headset. But the controller's marked up a little more. If you're a Forza Horizon or Forza 6 fan, jump in there and pick that up. That's just cool looking to me. Maybe I'm corny. Maybe I shouldn't get so excited over a decorated controller, but these look pretty cool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To my earlier discussion about packaging, it's everything to come uniform. You have your black controller, your white controller. I do enjoy coming or seeing people, on stream or visiting them
Yeah.
in real life that have these custom controllers because it just adds to the personality. You get a little bit more
Hmm.
about that person, about that individual and their gaming. style when you get to see stuff like that. I saw someone who had an X when the X-Men '97 cartoon came out. I was totally on board with that. I got a skin for my controller that was based on that, and it's because I love the X-Men. And you would know that if you walked into my house and you saw that controller, you wouldn't say, "Oh, this guy has a black and white controller. Who knows what kind of person he is? He seems like a boring black and white controller kind of guy." But so when I always encourage people to try and get these kind of things, and even if you can't afford this, because hey, I understand money's tight, put a sticker on your controller. Just any type of little additive
Exactly.
that that just gives a little personality, because I think we are sorely lacking in that as we all become so homogenized in this culture. Enough philosophy. Let's get on to our next topic, which is agentic in office.
This was
AGI
yeah,
finally.
yeah, this was good. I'm glad to see Microsoft head this way. So just to give you some background, we have agentic AI now is in Office 365. Now, for those that don't know what agentic AI is, I get it. There have been so many things out there floating around and saying, look, what is this? What is this AI buzz term? Agentic AI is almost like having your own virtual assistant. That's the best way I know how to say it. So for example, you need agentic AI to do something in your spreadsheet. You can even let it do things while you're away or not necessarily sitting at your desk. You can prompt it to say, hey, calculate these columns in Excel, change the way this looks. It can jump into documents, spreadsheets, and presentations for you and start taking multiple actions on its own while you kind of steer where it's going. So, as you said in your post, and I agree with this, it arrives at a very convenient moment for the company that recently raised prices on its productivity suite and needs to show that the extra dollars are having something more than just a new icon. I could not agree more, and I think this is one place that agentic AI might be useful for people. I love to create things. I mean, we do this website, we do this podcast. It's one of the highlights of my week. I love to create things. And sometimes I just need an idea. Or if I have an idea, maybe a little help executing that idea. Or sometimes I'm short on time and just need something done for me. I'm one person. There's only so many hours in a day. Or sometimes I need to modify a document and I'm not exactly sure how Microsoft Word wants me to accomplish that process. Well, now you can ask the agentic copilot, hey, you know, add these photos to my document and then import my Excel spreadsheet and make it fit below the photos. Now, I'm simplifying that. That's not your actual AI prompt, but those are things that you can do. And I think these are going to be very useful. And one of the first things that Microsoft has came out with that's more than just question and answer with Copilot. So I'm happy to see this. I think this is good. And to your point, I think this is a good way to start justifying those extra dollars that people are getting hit with for their 365 subscriptions.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, AGI was where all of these companies should have started. This is the
Yeah,
baby step,
agree.
not introducing AI. Because again, as far as you know, it's just a chatbot, so to speak, so far, because you have to prompt it to do something. We were doing
Hmm.
this with, again, Cortana back in the day. She just didn't have as many APIs to do all of the stuff, and then she couldn't uh, scour. I say she. It couldn't scour the internet to get as much information as it needed. But Google Assistant was very similar to this. AGI is basically doing stuff without the prompt, and that's what Again, as far as my closed-minded view of AI has been, thanks to you know 40 years of sci-fi movies. AI was something that you could let run on its own, do its own thing in accordance and assistance to what you needed in life. And then, there were always the dystopian things of like, what happens when the AI does more than you need it to do? And that was always the movies. But that was at least doing stuff without being prompted. This is where we're getting to that point. Some of the stuff that comes in, Specifically, is that in Word, Copilot can take you from blank pages to polished documents by drafting, rewriting, and restructuring and adjusting tone. And again, this is basically you write something on your own creativity, your own work, and then you go use the AGI, or AGI will start to adjust it and suggest things as you're going along. And then at the very end, you could be like, hey, you made me sound even smarter than I was originally using words and a part of the source that I wasn't even thinking about because I'm thinking about getting just the core ideas down. Now you've articulated and elevated it to a certain level that I can now present it. The other things you can do as in Excel, you can explore data, build analysis, and directly edit formulas, tables. I mean, the AGI can, uh, and visuals, and then they can move from question to decisions without any syntax. So again, as you're building out the core ideas, the core, you're bringing in the core data from your CRMs or from wherever your data pools are set. And now you're thinking to yourself, how do I show this to the client, to my boss, to justify my, if you're looking to get a raise and say, hey, I took this whole thing that we have a whole data set and we haven't visualized just yet. And I want to show you because I've explained to you number wise, like, hey, percentages here, 3%, 4% growth. Now I'm going to show you what that means in comparison to everything else. And now your boss can be like, oh my God, I didn't even see, I knew what the percentages meant, but now I know I can see what it's doing. Here's your raise. That's what we're saying. And then there's also PowerPoint where you can update entire decks with new talking points, refresh data while kind of respecting the template and brand. So you don't have to redo everything. Sometimes you get into PowerPoint, you're like, hey, I have a new idea of how I want this to look. And now you have to go back and redo 22 slides because the vision has changed, the way you want to interpret data or just the designs. This will help kind of, trim that down by saying, all right, well, we saw what you did with slide one. Let's see if we can readjust even the content that's in it to match what you did in slide one all the way down to slide 45. Uh, as much as we harp about AI, if we need to pay for this stuff, which I'm willing to do, and this is the stuff that's being produced, weird, you know, sexualized things or violating people's privacy, this I think is a good direction for AI. And again, with pacing scale, I think could be useful in the world. But again, I would gladly give all that away to save on data centers infringing on people's small communities, resources and whatnot. So, I'm glad that this is happening. I'm glad that this is the direction it's going in, but we take it day by day. The next story we have is Microsoft is confirming a shift back to the Xbox brand. This is a story that I wanted to talk about today. I'm sure David will as well, but I want to highlight to give David some runway to talk about this. But Asha Sharma, I believe it's, again, I'm probably pronouncing it horribly, but she is in the news once again because it looks like she's moving quickly to kind of win back some of the lost
She
goodwill
is.
over the Xbox brand. And in doing so, we have our first one of many announcements that happened over the last 2 weeks. One of them is that uh, they are moving away from Microsoft Gaming, which I think we talked about if you've been following David or myself for quite a bit. We, at our old publication, talked about that this might have been a good idea at the time if you were trying to sell Microsoft in packages, i.e., Microsoft Office, Microsoft Gaming, Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft OS, I guess, because it just made everything easy for people to understand that this is a Microsoft product and these are the different services that you offer, and here are the different tiers for it. So if you were to give someone a Microsoft an account, an ID, and say, "Hey, you can subscribe to Microsoft Home, which would include Microsoft Gaming, Microsoft OS, which is Windows, and maybe Microsoft Cloud, which is OneDrive or Microsoft Storage." Then you can say, "Hey, here's $30, $35, and you get all that stuff included." And then there's Microsoft Office, which is Azure, DB, Office 365, all those things that come into a specific thing for businesses. And then there's Microsoft Business, which is enterprise level stuff. If you were to start naming everything Microsoft, it would have made it easier, right? Well, it looks like, hey, they're going to pull Xbox back out of it and just say, this is Xbox. If you don't know what it is, go learn about it. It's gaming. It's its own thing. It doesn't really need to be tied in with any of the Microsoft stuff. That's one of the things they acknowledge. Another thing that they're going to start doing is, I think, Sharma and Booty outlined 4 priorities this week, strategic pillars that they want to do for their new Xbox era, which is focus on hardware. Consoles remain a foundation. I know that
Interesting.
over the Spencer days, it was kind of like Xbox everywhere. Spencer and Bond, Sarah Bond, I believe, was like, hey, you can do it anywhere. And again, I'm not going to say that I didn't champion that idea as well, because I thought it was a good pivot if they'd follow through. It seems like they said Xbox everywhere and then just set it and back kind of into the bushes like Homer did. Um, but this time it looks like they're going to try and go back to consoles. So we'll see what our the next console is going to look like. And I think we'll have some dev things. I think next year was it. I think it's going to be out. Content. They want to strengthen the pipelines across Xbox, Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, and King. So, we just keep pumping out all of the games that they just paid, almost $70 billion for. Get those onto the platforms, onto the consoles, and in probably more consoles than just the Xbox. I think they just recently said that they did well. Is it Forza on PlayStation that is doing well?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
they
the
want to
one.
focus on experiences, fixing the fragmentation, improving personalization, discovery, and social systems. And I think they just talked about having a new partnership with Discord. So we'll see how that works as far as social systems working out, because I know they gave up on their own Xbox social gaming tier. And then services, making Games Pass sustainable through flexible pricing and long-term value. They're also looking to use daily active players as the beacon of the North Star for them. Previously, back in Balmer's day, it was always console sales. Then as we got Game Pass up and going, it became subscriptions. Now it looks like they're going to just do uh, uh, daily active players, which again, it could be another sleight of hand. It could be, 3 card Monty kind of situation where they're shuffling around what the numbers mean. But I think if we look at it from a holistic, 30,000 foot view, uh, when you have more daily active players, that means they're either getting more subscriptions because people are tuning in or signing in to play, or they're playing on consoles, which means they bought a console to join in. So you move from 7 million active daily users to 8 million. Somewhere between that means someone bought a console or someone got some tier of your subscription pass. And internally, they can probably decipher who's buying which tiers or whatnot. And I'm sure they'll champion those once those numbers look even rosier. But as of right now, daily active players is what we're going to go by. Are they going to reverse course on controversial strategies, i.e., getting rid of this as an Xbox? Because one, it was short lived. Two, they never really championed it. And three, it didn't make any sense. They're going to, again, work on cutting Game Pass prices. Maybe they already started, and we'll get to that in a second. Delaying the Call of Duty one-day releases. Again, that's part of another story we're about to talk about in a second. And reevaluating exclusivity and windowing. I know that, again, part of the Xbox Play Anywhere or Everywhere, it was just like, hey, we'll let everybody play anything. I think, David and I spoke about this. You do need to have an exclusive. You need to have something that sells
Yes.
your brand, gets people in, pulls people from being comfortable in Sony land, which they've been for close to a decade now. And that's going to be hard to chip away at, but you got to at least try. Another one is cultural and operational resets, emphasizing challenger mindset, prioritizing player trust, increasing investment in content and brand reputation, cutting underperforming projects, and reallocating resources. I don't like the term cutting underperforming projects, reallocating resources, especially after you've gotten rid of over 1,000 people in different studios across your publishing library. So we'll pause on that one and we'll keep a scrutinizing eye on that. And then there's a big picture, which is, this is going to be Asha's Phil Spencer moment where she has to backtrack on a lot of things that were just previously done that chipped away at what we are considering, the goodwill of Xbox and try and win people back. And so she's got, I would say, even a shorter window than he did, because Xbox 360, the Xbox 360 wasn't in a bad situation when it went into the Xbox One. And they blew all of that goodwill away, but he was able to earn it back over the last, 8 to 9 years. Then this Xbox One series kind of moved away from that. And, with an economic situation that's going on where it's going to be tough to play games, buy games, build systems to play things on, get access to these things, she's going to have a short window to kind of get that back. And especially, like I said, she's going uphill against Sony, who's just sitting at the top for a long time by itself. I said a lot. I'm gonna let you talk. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking a lot of things, but I'm going to condense it as best we can. I'm glad to see this, number one. As you were sitting there talking, I was going over my thoughts. And I remember when I was a beta tester for the original Xbox, you opened that box and you had this cool looking green X on the front. You had this nice big round button. Just, the for its time, the Xbox looked cool and you felt like you were something special because you had the Xbox. Then you had Xbox Live, and that was bold branding, and you were live, and you paid your $50, and you got your mono headset, and you could hear your friends, and you could talk, and we didn't have to worry about stereo or surround sound or 1080p or 720p. We just played. We just played our game, and Halo was the exclusive at the time. There were a couple others, but Halo was the big exclusive. That's what we did. And I realize in today's world, we're competing with smartphones, we're competing with tablets, and we're competing with social media ultimately to get people's attention. And I think it's very important that Microsoft go back to doing what they do best, make products that people want to get involved in. People want to get involved in Windows. People want to get involved in Office. Microsoft has always done a good job of showing how easy products are to use and have done a good job at engaging people. I remember Trixie 360, Major Nelson, they did a wonderful job with the weekly shows of engaging people. And since Larry left, that's his real name. Um, that engagement's not been there. Since those two folks left, that engagement, that fire, that let's go get people just seems to be missing in some way. And I think in order to do that, you've got to do a couple things. You've got to have a solid console experience, something that turns on and people are right in their game. So their limited time to play these games does not get used up by updates, which are still frustrating on Xbox because you're ready to play. You hit that power button and your controller's got to update before you can do anything. Your game's got to update before you can do anything. You've got to get the Xbox software update before you can do anything. And your night's ruined or whatever time you have is taken away. So that's a way that we can make the most of people's time. We've got to get the exclusives back. I think we need at least one to say, hey, this is why you go buy Xbox. Look at what Gran Turismo did for PlayStation back in the day. Why did we want a PlayStation? I wanted one just to play Gran Turismo, and I think a lot of people did. Okay, now, what do you get? We had Halo. Then it was MLB The Show. Everybody wanted a PlayStation to play MLB The Show. It made its way over to Xbox. Let's get back to some exclusives. Let's get back to having some energy. Let's get back to having people involved. They have to make money. I understand that. But if you can get people involved, I feel like the money will come because they're engaged, they're active. You get people's attention. That's how you get their money. This is how these social media platforms continue to thrive. There's something there that gets your attention. Microsoft hasn't gotten my attention with Xbox in quite a while. I mean, just really grabbed my attention and made me say, Monday after work, I gotta get back with my buddies. I gotta do this. Tuesday after work, I'm ready to get home to get back with my buddies because we want to do this. I haven't felt that in a long time. And I think we've got to get back to that energy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this is also, I'm gonna keep it real short, indicative of what they're doing with Windows as well. The in-person insider meetings, the sense of community. These are things that are relatively cheap to do, but when you get people engaged, the people are, to your point, more activated and more invested, and it takes longer to pull them apart from this. And we see this in politics. When you have a grassroots, I mean, meaning people that are part of your campaign are going out and invent, evangelizing you or the candidate, knocking door to door, talking to people, and then getting those people to go out and do the same thing. These are people that are getting up saying, "Hey, I'm going to go do something for this candidate. I'm invested in this candidate, and no matter what happens in this race, I'm backing this person. I'm enthusiastic about it, and I'm going to go explain it to someone else." It doesn't cost you as much as putting out a TV ad. But again, when someone watches on TV, they're not necessarily invested in the candidate, invest in what they're saying on TV. And if that candidate happens to do something that they don't like or whatever, they'll jump course and they're not behind them 100%. They saw something, they might agree with it, but they have no stake in the game. Same thing happens with when you get people that can evangelize. Like you had Larry, you had a community of people, you had different Xbox communities where people could get together and talk about or extol the virtues of Xbox. And you saw that all over YouTube. People talking about, and this is a while back, but you saw people talk about Xbox constantly, and they would tell you, even in the face of adversity and bad sales, they'd say, "Hey, the reason why I like doing it is because of this," even though Sony offers these better benefits or attributes, and they would prioritize that. When you have fewer people like Larry and other people that were part of your community talking about it, now, to your point, it comes down to the games. And Microsoft doesn't have the games. They won't have the games for a while. So they need people out there to compensate for that. And hopefully this is part of that as well. Hopefully, they'll bring back. I think there was some headlines that about Larry being interested in coming back. Maybe he'll come back for a period of time to help Asha kind of usher in this, gamer first community based kind of thing. We always hear these stories about, hey, there's an epidemic of loneliness. Well, if you can hop online, and this has nothing to do with gaming in general, these are just communities you can go to talk about things. You might start with like, "Hey, I like playing Arc Raiders. What else do you like doing?" When I'm, by myself, I like to go fishing. Let's talk about that while we play Arc Raiders. And then you move on beyond that. You become friends and do something else. Maybe we'll meet up and have coffee and then go actually, you know, go fishing together. That's how some of these things can start. And that's how some of your brain gets associated with that. And that's how people start to get endeared to it and start loving it because they have so many great memories tied to it. So it's all saying good luck. We've always heard about pivots and turns, and Phil Spencer had his, and he dropped the ball towards the end. So hopefully she can maintain this going forward. With that being said, she did do something right off the bat, which is drop the Xbox pricing. That's our next topic. Yeah, we got the pricing for the Xbox Game Pass pricing has gone down. It shot up for a minute, got up to $29.99. It is now dropping down to $22.99. That's for the Ultimate. And then PC Game Pass falls down from $16.49 to $13.99. And these are two moves I think are good signs. Asha mentioned that, hey, this is just too much. But in doing so, she had to admit that, hey, part of the reason why this went up is because we have day one Call of Duty stuff. We're going to take those away from these passes. They are no longer going to be day one, but you won't have to pay as much. I don't know. How do you feel about that? I'm not a big Call of Duty person, so it didn't bother me. I'm glad to see the pricing go down, but I know you play Call of Duty. Do you think it was a good trade off?
Well, when you first read it, the answer is no, but do the math. Do
Okay.
do
Okay.
do the math. Alright, we went from $29.99 to $22.99, right? That's $7 roughly, correct?
Hmm. Yeah.
So 7 times 12 is what? So you got 2, so $7 a month times 12, that
At
is
80.
$80.
Yeah.
So you're
84,
losing
I think.
you're taking off $80 a year, 84
80 plus.
bucks a
Yeah.
year. Let's call it 84 bucks. Call of Duty is what? 69 plus tax, call it 75, right? So are we gonna argue over 8, $9? Think about it. That was kind of my way of looking at it. Most people, when I say that, I say that carefully, but most people that buy Call of Duty, you saw that Call of Duty was being left out. I saw the comments, folks, and I enjoyed reading. Oh god, oh gosh, oh gosh, I've got to go buy Call of Duty next year. That's $70. I don't like it, blah blah blah. And you went off. I get it. That is the knee-jerk reaction. You pull the big title out, and people go ballistic. That's when I started doing the math, and I went, "Okay, we're down to 7, $8. I'm not gonna argue over 7 or $8 because ultimately what is happening here is the people that want to play Call of Duty kinda balance it out for the people that don't, because as we said, Xbox needs that 70,000,000,000. They want to keep making that money back and continue to make that money back. How can you do that and make sure you're doing that? You can sell that product separately. That's what you can do. So when it's on that sales sheet as 70 bucks a piece, makes that sales sheet look a little better.
Yeah.
It makes that Game Pass number not look so bad all of a sudden if it's less because you've got that 70 bucks a pop over there, to balance that out. So I get it. And the people that don't want to play are getting the benefits of that 7, $8 a month. I get what we're doing here. It looks
Well,
better.
yeah, I was going to say it looks better. And admittedly, I'm a little biased. The idea is to get more people playing more games. And if the barrier to entry becomes this is just too expensive, you lose that player and all the other developers who have indie games that range between $7 to $65 or whatever the price is. They all suffer from this because you're basically saying, hey, that one player who could have been playing, like me, Hades, has now dropped the entire platform. So that could be the issue going forward for pricing it this way allows people to stay on the platform, play other games, get developers more money in their pockets, ideally. We'll see what they do with this going forward, but I think it's at least a good step, a good show of faith that she is trying to address some of the pain points. The next story we got is OpenAI, and that is a memo that was sent out, I believe, when was that? This week, if I'm not mistaken. It's a leaked memo. Oh, it actually might have been end of last week. Nevertheless, it's a leaked memo saying that Sam Altman, basically, to summarize for most people, is that he thinks that his partnership with AWS is much better than his partnership with Microsoft, and that Microsoft has basically been hindering them. They've been standing in their way. And again, this is all part of the idea that OpenAI has got a new partnership with AWS, which I think is for, let me see if I can get the details right. Um, I forget, it's like 50 billion or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it's 50 billion investments and 100 billion in cloud over the next 8 years. I think the actual memo was basically saying that Bedrock, which is, I believe, AWS, is going to be the new foundation for OpenAI going forward. But, I think we wrote about this on the website. I don't know if we talked about it on the pod just yet, but there's an Azure exclusivity, which prevents OpenAI from selling directly to AWS. They came up with some kind of workaround that's a semantic workaround more than a technical one. Uh, and so Microsoft is in the position to possibly sue. All of this is dirty and convoluted and intricate. My question to you is, what is Microsoft to do with their partner who doesn't want to be their partner anymore?
You asked me the key question there, buddy. You kinda just rolled it right in there. I'm glad you did because this is something we talked about for just a moment off mic. And here's my take. I'm not sure what Microsoft is supposed to do, but I know what Microsoft is likely going to do. A lawyer will handle this. The attorneys will handle this. Ultimately, what this is going to come down to is contracts. Whatever contract somebody has or somebody has clauses to is going to be fulfilled, or you're going to pay price, penalty, whatever is determined by the legal system to make that happen. Then Sam and his ways of Sam Altman and his ways of determining what we're going to do on Monday is different than what we're going to do on Friday. He'll go do what he wants to do. And he'll see, right now he says Amazon is the way. I get it. I understand, Sam. That's what you want to do. That's cool. Do that. But Microsoft may be who gets hurt in this deal, if I think this through for just a minute. Because the partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft was made so that Microsoft could get a leg up on AI by using OpenAI's models, and then OpenAI got Microsoft's infrastructure, right? So if OpenAI and Microsoft have an argument and OpenAI says, well, best of luck to you, you're not getting any more model updates. What you got's what you got. Make the best of it. We fulfilled that end of the deal. But when OpenAI 9.0 or whatever comes out, you won't be getting it. That's just ours now. We'll share it with AWS. Is Microsoft ready to create their own models? I think they are. I think we can do that. I think we can update Copilot, and I think we can keep people engaged. But from a Microsoft perspective, just as a reporter and a consumer, that's where I could see the problem being. Is Microsoft ready to support their own AI model should this go bad with OpenAI and you don't get any more updates and you maybe get a paycheck or you maybe get, it's kind of like you paid for a service for a year, but you used it 2 months and you want that refund. Maybe you get that refund check. But are you ready to build your own AI? Are you ready to create your own models? Are you ready to survive without OpenAI? I think is the big question.
Yeah, definitely a big question, but I think, they already have a contractual obligation for the next, I don't know, 5 years or so. I think they're because the original contract was for 10 years, I think, at least the original partnership
The
deal.
one I remember was 10.
So they're in what, year 5, 6 of this or whatnot. So they got some time to figure out what they're going to do going forward. They obviously can't use Google Gemini like Apple's about to, so they will need to come up with something on their own. I know that they have been flirting with Claude or Anthropic's Claude, so they may expand in that direction. I don't even know where they've gone with XAI. I know that they had mentioned using it, but since Elon and XAI went off the rails, they haven't talked much about it. So who knows? That they have a French company that they're working with that's also working on an AI for them. They may bring that in more in house and build that up over the next 4 or 5 years. They have some maneuvers. And this is going to kind of segue into our next topic. If AI becomes a bust, they can still pivot just like Apple did. And who knows what their next CEO is going to do with this? And that goes to our next topic, which is Apple's big leadership transition.
You
We
see what
are,
he did there, folks. You see what he did there?
yes, we are leaving the Tim Cook era, so to speak, and entering the new, what is his name? Let me get this right. John Turnus. John Turnus is a 25-year Apple veteran, been working in hardware for most of this time. But he is taking over for Tim Cook as far as the daily CEO stuff is going to matter. Uh, Tim Cook will still be around. I think he's moving into, oh God, what is the exact term? But he's basically be like the company's ambassador. He will still be going out making some deals internationally. He'll be the guy that kind of, for better or for worse, babysits our presidents in the United States. A guy that Tim Apple will still remain the contact for the presidency or for any administration. We'll see how long he stays in that position. He may, after the Trump administration moves out of power, he may retire fully. But the idea is that you do not transition a new CEO uh, in the midst of, I guess, an administration, especially of this commingling that this one currently has. Our president knows Tim Cook, very well. So he's still going to be around, still giving out fake trophies and whatnot. But John Turnus, who is a hardware guy, is going to be at the helm. I think I had a little bit of a few questions. First off, this kind of felt like he came out of nowhere because we haven't seen him. He's been at Apple events, the pre-recorded stuff, talking about some hardware things, but there was no natural ascension like we had when it was Steve Jobs and Tim Cook. Like we knew that Tim Cook eventually was going to move into, because he was a logistics guy, into this position. I know a lot of people wanted Johnny Ive because he was designer, but designers aren't great when it comes to money and finances and partnerships and uh, optimizing the supply chains like Tim Cook was. Tim Cook moved Apple from a medium-sized company, relatively medium, I say, to a behemoth. Now it looks like it's going to be John Turnus's time to basically take this behemoth and get a little more creative because he's a hardware guy. He's not the numbers guy. Tim Cook can come out and show you um, this is a new laptop, but Turnus can talk about all the details in it. And I think this is going to be his panos panay kind of moment. So, what are your thoughts on Turnus? Where Apple goes in the future? If he focuses on AI, I know this is supposed to be a big year for them at WWDC to finally put out the series that they talked about 2.5 years ago when the other iPhones came out. Does he lean on this, or does he say, "Hey, you know what? Screw Siri. Here's more MacBook Neos, people."
I think we're gonna go half and half, and that's not a cop out on my part. I don't know much about John. I haven't had a chance to read up on him and his background, and, I know he's a hardware guy. I know that's been mentioned, as you said, but, I'm happy to hear that he's a hardware guy because I think Apple does need to shake up, maybe not the internals of the hardware, but maybe the look of the hardware, give it a different look. Give us that touchscreen Mac that people have been asking for. Maybe he can get in there and make the iPad more PC like. Maybe he leans into that, but if he doesn't, we go a different direction. It's kind of like Bill Gates and Microsoft, in my opinion. We had Gates, then Bomber. Bomber wanted to lean back on Gates. He kept some of those ideas and kind of sprinkled in some of his own. Now we've got Satya Nadella. Satya Nadella's a little different. Okay, we've had Tim Cook. We had the original Steve Jobs. Tim kind of leaned into what Steve Jobs left behind. There was there's thoughts that, you know, maybe Tim had 5 years of what Steve's vision was. But I think with John, you're gonna get something different. I don't
Okay, here's a
know,
better question. Here's another question.
okay, what you
Should Microsoft start new? Should they pivot? I was listening to our buddies over at Windows Central, and I am in agreement with Zach. And I think he and I are kind of on the same page in this. I've never trusted Nadella only because he killed Windows Phone, and that was near and dear to my heart.
yes,
That was he
yes, it
stabbed me in
was.
the front and the back with this one. So I've
I've
always
known you
had.
known you for 6 years now. And I have loved getting to know you, my friend, but you have been a Windows Phone man for 6 years.
Yeah, and it still hurts when I open up my Duo and it's lagging behind now. It's showing its age with the chip that it has. My question is, and I think Zach had a pretty good point with this. Della has lucked into a great company. Palmer took a lot of arrows for being a hardware guy, but during his tenure, he did create the division for Azure, oversaw it, made it to what it is today. But this wasn't a project that he came up with. Steve Ballmer came up with the Xbox, championed the Xbox. Even when Bill Gates had killed it in the womb, Ballmer said, "We need this." I'm wondering, Now that Nadella's kind of had the reins and the company's been his, and he's done great. And that to his credit, he's, you know,
Yeah, he
ridden
has.
the wave to heights that the stock market for this company has never been at. But as far as ideas,
Nothing new.
exactly, he's expounded on Azure, which again was something created under Ballmer. And now I think, but he's going to own AI. That's going to be his, and I don't think it's going to end well. Are we at a point where Microsoft might need to say, "Hey, thank you, Nadella, for what you've done, but this quantum computing that you keep talking about, and this, and now AI, these are moonshots that didn't pan out. These are our Nokia moments. Maybe you have another Nokia, consequence as well. Maybe we move on from you and move into somebody else who can guide the company into something else. And maybe that's part of this whole, let's think about Windows again. Let's think about, Office again in a
Yes.
certain specific way. Let's think about Xbox in a specific certain way. And maybe let's think about our hardware. Maybe hopefully this is the year where they say, you know what, we're going to expand the service lineup. Maybe we start to get back into hardware and making that priced differently versus subscriptions all the time. I know that's the future. It's easy to do and they're a software company, but you need software's rest on something. And if you don't own what it rests on, you're going to be in a tough situation. Google and Chromebooks or Pixel tablets.
My friend, I think you bring up a very valid point. Um, and I think as the industry usually does, whether we like to admit it or not, a lot of times we follow Apple. They are big, they are huge. The iPhone is king. As much as my Windows Phone friend, hates to hear those words, the iPhone is king. So we usually find ourselves in the end doing something similar to what Apple does. So if John steps in and says, look, we're going to focus on hardware because that's what I know that, I'm going to show you what I can do first. Then we'll step back and take a look at our software, offerings maybe later. So let's just throw out an example here. I think he's supposed to take over officially September-ish. All right. Well, what is September-ish, folks? What is that? That's
iPhone,
iPhone release time.
iPhone Fold. He's gonna he's
Yeah,
gonna
that
he's gonna
that
pull out the Surface Duo.
that's exactly that, man. You read my mind. That's exactly where my next comment was going. Okay, what if John? And I think this could very well happen. It's not like John just walked in the building. Maybe he's been coddling the iPhone Fold. You know, because they have said getting John in place has been a process. It didn't just happen this week when it was announced. So they know John is good at hardware. So maybe for the last year and a half, maybe longer, maybe less. John, you're going to be CEO in 2026. You're good at hardware, much like our friend Johnny Ive was good at designing hardware. This can be the first product that you introduce as CEO of Apple. Hmm. Now we're going to go a different direction. We've got the iPhone Fold. You do it well, people purchase it. Does the iPad fold? Do we start getting the Lenovo-ish experiments with the MacBook? Because you've got a big audience there to play with, and you don't need your entire audience to adopt one product for you to be successful. Microsoft needs you to adopt the Surface in terms of hardware. They need you to adopt Windows. They don't have the phone to fall back on. They don't have the iPad to fall back on. So if he does well with hardware and he does something different, Microsoft is going to be watching and go, maybe people want hardware of XYZ type. Asha, buddy, we appreciate what you did with cloud. We appreciate you getting us through a pandemic. We appreciate you chaperoning the work at home way and helping us build the Office 365 cloud. But But we've got a new Xbox leader over here that's interested in hardware. We really need to get somebody in here that's interested in Microsoft hardware and making our software be the best it can be. Thank you. We're going to go someplace different. I think, the next big move in the industry happens September-ish. I'm gonna go with that.
All right. Keep listening to us until September and make sure you keep him honest, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, let's wrap up this pod. We got our Xbox free play days. You, sir, are in charge of these. Introduce them.
Yes, I am, and I enjoy my free play days. I know, I appreciate the couple of emails I get when there wasn't one last week. That made me feel good, folks. So keep those emails rolling in, and I have clicked off a free play day. So give me just a second to get all scrolled down here. Let's see where. Okay, here we go. I have found them. Let's see.
Looks like we got MLB The Show 26
I
is
see
one.
what's happening. My headlines have. Okay, there we go. Sorry, folks, my headlines kind of froze up there. All right. By the way, we use Microsoft Cloud, so maybe they heard us talking about it, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna freeze these guys up right here."
See how much you don't need the cloud.
Exactly. But this week, we've got some good stuff for free play days. Baseball season is just gotten underway this month. It is still April, right? Yep, still April. So the baseball season is underway. We've got MLB The Show 26 Standard Edition. That is regular 69.99 down to 46.89. That's a pretty good deal for a recently released game, and I think a lot of people know what MLB The Show 26 is. That is more of your simulation style baseball game, so be prepared to stand in there, take your balls, take your strikes, play a slower paced, true to life, to use their own description, a true to life experience. That is a five-star game. That is a five-star rated game that's out of 981 reviews right now. So, a five-star related sports game that might be worth your time alone to check out. We've also got Anno 117 Pax Ramona. That is a building strategy game set in the Roman Empire. Is now yours for 25% off for a limited time. Become a Roman governor, build and manage cities, shape your culture, and decide the cost of peace. Your choices shape your legacy. Almost sounds like a Sim City to me. This is a Ubisoft game that is $59.99. There was not an advertised discount on that one. It is also a five-star game. We also have The Survivalist, which is a living world full of surprises, secrets, and danger awaits in The Survivalist, an adventure-filled survival sandbox set in the escapist universe. Explore, build, craft, and even train monkeys with up to 3 friends, so we can all train monkeys together. Could be monkeys training monkeys, who knows? But you can team up with your friends in a desperate bid to survive. Have you got what it takes to be a survivalist? That just sounds interesting in that description. That one is on a deep discount, $24.99 down to $4.99. Now, free play days for all. That means no subscription is needed. You can just jump right in, play this one. This one is Age of Mythology. You can explore the Age of Empires. Age of Mythology Retroid goes beyond history to a mythical age where gods, monsters, and humans collide, combining the best elements of the beloved Age of Mythology with modern real-time strategy design and visuals. This one is down to $23.99 from $29.99. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 titles this weekend. all look interesting. I'm gonna try out MLB The Show 26. I always try that one out during free play days because that's just something I enjoy. And I'm probably also going to try out The Survivalist, and I'm probably also going to try out Anno 117 Pax Romana. They all look good to me this week. So, if I was to game all weekend, it's gonna be a busy weekend. Maybe what I do. What are you up to this weekend? I've got a few non-gaming things. I've actually got to get out and live a life and be social and be friendly
What?
and see people, and I've gotta do those things regardless of if I want to or not, but, there's gonna be some time in there for gaming, but what are you gonna play, if anything, on this list, or gonna play something not on this list?
I am like you. I got to get out and do stuff. So I got some concerts, things I got to go to for my girls. We also have a bowling, Girl Scout event on Sunday. So if I could
That
squeeze some
sounds
time
fun.
in, yeah, it should be. I think maybe I'll have time for the Anno 117 Pax Romana. It looks like you said, kind of like a sim slash Roman themed kind of game. Age of Mythology is something I used to, or the Age of, games or some of the things I used to play on PC. I don't know if I have time to build and finish a whole session with one of those, but if I could muster it, that'll be something I do maybe as well this weekend. You know me, I am always playing Hades. I just did a
Yes.
review of Absalom, I believe on is also on Game Pass. That game is amazing. If I could, if I could recommend that any higher, I would. For those of you who are looking for a quick game, the reason why I wrote about it is because again, I am someone who is busy, and these roguelike games are starting to pay off for me because I can go do a run on a game, die, and not be frustrated with having to either start over or you know manufacture and maintain my saves, know where you're saving at and know that if you start a mission, you have time to, you know, do something else or finish it versus like, all right, I've started this next quest and it could take me 14 hours in order to finish it. And I only have an hour left at the end of the night to play it. So being able to hop into a game, do a run, die, keep some of that experience, move all those points and trinkets, things that you get, achievements over to the next time you play again, and it change itself differently, to give you a new experience instead of you constantly doing the same one over and over. Those have been great, and Absalom is just like Hades. It's a side scroller as opposed to the top down view, but the artwork's amazing. Go ahead and play that. Where can people find you if they want to hang out with you and play some games?
I just had a quick question, and our
Yeah,
viewers
of
might be
course.
interested. What are you playing on your handheld, or you're playing on your Xbox? You playing on a tablet? What are you playing on? Just
I'm
curiosity.
usually playing on my handheld. It is between either the Nintendo Switch because they're offered on both, or the Legion Go. Both are handheld because, like I said, I can play. When I go drop them off at dance, and I gotta, they're there for an hour or two. I don't go home all the time, so I'll go to, like, maybe a Dunkin's or the Starbucks, something, like, do some work, but now I can just sit out in the car and play. You don't necessarily need internet for these games, so it makes them super convenient. You can sit there in, an air-conditioned car or, go to a store or go to run some errands, but you can play it on the go, and I think that's the benefit of these handhelds. So, I do handhelds.
That's why I asked that question since we're talking about the Xbox rebranding. I know you've got 2 kids and you're out and about, whatnot, and I was wondering, okay, where is he getting in his gaming time? So, to answer
That's
your
it.
question, my friend, if people wanna find me, we can always game together. David PAJ 1978 over on the Blue Sky, please. That's where you'll find me. That's where I hang out. That's where I read a lot. I don't always post a lot, but I do read. I do, read what people are up to, what gamers are up to. To refer back to some of our stories in the pod. I see some, cool gaming rooms on there sometimes, some cool decorations, some cool content people are creating. So keep that up. Find me, David PAJ 1978. We can hook up on Xbox. We can play on the handheld. I've got a handheld as well. You can join a stream. I'm always looking to get involved with people. So, clean, casual gamer, you're all welcome.
You can find me at Happy Hulk, Blue Sky, if you want to talk politics or comics. You can find me Cream Anderson on Threads. I still haven't made the transition over fully. If you want to talk comics and movies or anything else like that. Uh, Other than that, you could probably find me out in the streets, hanging out, playing a game inside my car too. So knock on the window. You can give you some strategies on how to beat a certain level in Hades. Other than that, totally appreciate you guys. We thank you for your continued patron of our website, of our podcast, of all the various things that we do. We'll see you guys again next week. Take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. Go out and enjoy whatever it is you do, like we always say. And we will see you guys here next week.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us.